Hello and welcome. Today we're exploring one of Denmark's most beloved contributions to world cuisine, the Danish pastry. Danish pastry is probably up there with open-faced rye bread sandwiches, also known as smørbrød, and the Nordic cuisine in terms of international fame. If you visit Denmark, it's a must-try, I think, as part of the Danish culinary experience. And that is also why I thought it was also time to make a video about Danish pastry. In this video, I will give you the Danish take on Danish pastries, how Danes eat them, and my personal favorites as well. Danes refer to different categories of pastry and bakery like morgenbrød, wienerbrød, cakes and cream cakes, flødekager. They are hard to distinguish in practice, and also Danes can have troubles doing that. And frankly, it would be too much to cover all types of Danish cakes and pastry in this video. So I will focus mainly on the pastries, what Danes would eat for breakfast and snack, and leave out the cakes for another video. But before we look at the variety of pastries, let's talk about the history of Danish pastries. The story of Danish pastry begins in the 19th century when a baker's strike led bakery owners in Denmark to hire workers from abroad, including Austria. These Austrian bakers brought with them techniques for making laminated dough, which Danish bakers adapted, adding a delicious twist with sweetener fillings and more butter. The result was so popular that it became a national sensation, and thus the Wienerbrød was born. Wienerbrød literally means bread from Vienna in Danish. The magic of this bread from Vienna lies in its dough. The classic Wienerbrød dough is made from yeast-leavened dough layered with butter. This technique, called lamination, involves folding and rolling the dough several times to create thin layers. Not like Buddha dough, but almost. When baked, the buttery layers puff up, creating the characteristic flaky texture. The dough may also include ingredients like egg, sugar, giving it a sweet and tender crumb. The literal translation of Danish pastry into Danish is Wienerbrød, bread from Vienna. But Danes most commonly use the broader term morgenbrød or morning bread in the everyday vernacular. Wienerbrød or pastries is a part of the variety of breads and pastries that Danes would eat for a breakfast. But some types of wienerbrød are not commonly eaten for breakfast, but more as an afternoon snack or together with coffee or tea in the afternoon. For start, let's look at the most common pastries that Danes would eat for breakfast. A Danish breakfast typically consists of yogurt, cereals, toast, buns or eggs. But on the weekend or on special days, Danes may enjoy Danish pastries as well. In the morning, and as part of the morgenbrød I referred to earlier, Danes typically enjoy the less sweet variations of wienerbrød. These include, in order of sweetness, the following. The Frøsnapper, or the Frøsnapper, I don't know. This pastry is a rectangular pastry with slits on the sides, filled with custard and topped with sugar and glaze and poppy seeds. I really like this one of my favorites actually. The next one, a little bit similar, is Tebirkes. I guess it could translate directly into tea poppy seeds or something like that. Tebirkes is a rectangular pastry that is covered with poppy seeds and has a thin layer and custard inside. Yummy. Kanelsnegl or cinnamon roll. It's really a large snail-shaped pastry filled with cinnamon, sugar and butter, and topped with sugar glaze and nuts sometimes. It comes in different variations. Sometimes it's square now, sometimes it's round, sometimes it's bigger. On Wednesdays, for example, there's a tradition of making them a bit bigger and cheaper. So you find them in all sorts of shapes and sizes. Another version of the cinnamon roll is the Kanelsnegl cinnamon spinner from Sweden. We also have the cardamom spinner, or different variations of the spinner in general. Spandauer is a round pastry that has a hole in the middle filled with custard, jam or cheese and sprinkled with sugar and almonds. The name Spandauer comes from the German city of Spandau, where this pastry originated. I would say in Denmark you rarely find it with cheese, but you do that in Germany. Danes might also enjoy some sweet buns if the sugar on traditional pastry is simply too much in the morning. This could be chokoladebolle or chocolate bun. The chocolate bun is sort of a round pastry filled with chocolate and topped with chocolate glaze. It could also be a raisin bun, which is a round pastry filled with raisins and butter and topped with sugar glaze. Also one of my favorites, actually also for tea in the afternoon. Of course, Danes also enjoy the croissants or the pain au chocolat that are very popular in France and all over the world now, I guess. In Danish companies, there's actually also a pastry tradition. So, for example, on Friday breakfast or special celebrations, birthdays, or just on a Wednesday as a tradition, employees or employers might bring Danish pastry for work. This could be a Wienerstang, it could be a kringle, or it could be a Kanelsnegl. It could also be a cake, like a strawberry cake, but I excluded all the cakes from this video, so we'll go over that another time. That is an interesting tradition and something that many foreigners, they find quite nice, and because it's also part of this hygge culture that you have probably heard about, where we come together and just talk around a little snack in the afternoon. The types of Wienerbrød which are not so common to eat for breakfast are the sweeter, more cake-like types, I would say. These include a huge variety, of which I will only mention a few. The Hindbærsnitte or raspberry cut is a rectangular pastry that consists of 2 layers of puff pastry with raspberry jam in between and icing on the top. The name Hindbærsnitte means raspberry slice because this pastry is cut into slices. And as you can see, it's a sweet one. So yeah, you can probably share it. Another very popular pastry is Romkugle or rumball. Romkugle is basically a black chocolate cake, very dense, or more like a muffin type, with rum essence inside. The story goes that the bakers just took all the leftovers and added the rum essence and the chocolate into the mix, and the rumball was born this way. These are just some of the many types of pastry that you can find in the Danish bakery. There are also seasonal pastries such as Fastelavnsbolle, which are cream-filled buns eaten during the carnival season. I can really recommend those. That's all the most important you need to know about Danish pastries. My personal favorites are the Tebirkes and the Frøsnapper. I like these two because of the custard and because they are not too sweet compared to the cinnamon roll, for example. Which one is your favorite? Let me know in the comments below. If you want to know more about Denmark or Danish traditions, then let me know by subscribing and you'll get a notification next time a video is out. You can also check out some of the other videos I made here and here. So until my next video, I'll just say take care and don't eat too much of that delicious Danish pastry. Take care.